Islam. March 19th, Canaan Land Moors class. Topic today is don't believe the hype, your Moors not blacks. Alright? This is going to be one of those classes that we go through lots of information. Alright? There's going to be a lot of reading today because people are still not convinced that they're not blacks. People still pushing this stupidity. People still pushing this dotishness that they're adjectives. So alright, cool. You be adjectives all you want. For those people who are sincere, alright, for those people who have taken that black position and continuously get your ass kicked, and you don't want to move from that, hopefully after this you'll consider moving from that position, right? Because again, this is a repetitive theme with Moors. Noble Ali came 1913 and told the Moors, we're not Negro, blacks, or colored people, or Ethiopian people, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and he's talking about this is a new era of time now back then, and we're still going through the same crap that he was going through, trying to convince these Moors that they're not black people. Well, we're gonna do our best to continue to do that, making sure we get our bills out the way. This weekend, this Sunday, Canaan Land Moors presents Moorish Culture Unveiled, the Astronomy and Geometry of Masonry and Christianity. The lecturer is the master etymologist Abdullah El Talib Mozi Bey. It's a Skype lecture, and it's going to be at 1704 Eglinton Avenue West at 4 p.m. If anybody out there is interested in pre-ordering the DVD, it's going to be $20, 20 notes, 20 fiat dollars, right? And you can make a PayPal payment to the email culturalecducators@gmail.com. So if you're interested in pre-ordering the DVD of the Abdullah El Talib Mozi Bey, the Master Etymologist lecture, The Astronomy and Geometry of Masonry and Christianity, Sunday, March 24th, 2013, culturalecducators@gmail.com. culturaledukators@gmail.com. Alright? Second thing, today's newspaper, in the business section. Alright? Today's newspaper in the business section. Cyprus tax plan shocks Europe. Savings. Government set to raid bank accounts to raise bailout money. A plan to seize up to 10% of people's savings in the small Mediterranean island nation of Cyprus sent shockwaves across Europe on Monday as households realized the money they have in the bank may not be safe. A weekend agreement between Cyprus and its European partners called for the government to raid bank accounts as part of a 15.8 billion euro financial bailout. The first time in the Eurozone's crisis that the prospect of seizing individuals' savings has been raised. Facing outrage, Cyprus government delayed a parliamentary vote on the seizure and ordered banks to remain shut until Thursday, while it tries to modify the deal to reduce the hit on people with small deposits. Several hundred people gathered outside the vacant Parliament building, with some chanting, "Thieves, thieves." "We're very angry, betrayed, hurt, and extremely disappointed," said protester Andriana Constantinou. In order to get 10 billion euros in bailout loans from international creditors, Cyprus agreed to take a percentage of all deposits, including citizens' savings. The surprise deal stoked fears that the deposits in other countries could be targeted. The government is now trying to modify the terms of the plan, and in particular, to get a better deal for small savers. The stakes are high for the country of 1 million people, because a rejection of the package could see the country go bankrupt and possibly out of the common euro currency. Officials also fear a run on Cypriot banks no matter which way the voting goes. So, during the Prophet's time, after he received the mandate, right, from the Sultan at the Pan American Conference, he told all the Moors, "Get your money out of the bank." Moors didn't listen. Nobody listened because they thought he was just a guy with a funny hat. Stock market crashed, right? And people lost everything. Divine warning by the Prophet: get your fiat dollars out of these institutions called banks, because the government in Cyprus is set to raid bank accounts, and the surprise deal stoked fears that deposits in other countries could be targeted. So this is a warning. If you got money in the bank, take it out of the bank, because your bank account more than likely is in all capital letters name. Being that your bank account is in all capital letters name, that means the people who created that all capital letters name through the birth certificate have jurisdiction over your bank account. And by the looks of where things are going, like Brother Fonteas L made a statement that they're losing power all over the planet. And the only way that they're going to have power, the only way they're going to get power, is if we consent to giving it. Right? So just do your research on Cyprus tax plan shocks Europe. And the tax plan is to raid bank accounts to raise bailout money. All right? Just so you're clear on that. Right? They don't have any intention of freeing the people. They don't have any intention of making things moving forward be easy. All right? So with regard to today's class, don't believe the hype. You're Moors. You're not blacks, Negroes, coloreds, Puerto Ricans, Latinos, poor whites, minorities, etc. You're Moors. Right? So we're going to go to the dictionary. Right? Webster's 7th New Collegiate Dictionary. And we go to black. And black is the adjective, Middle English, BLAK, from Old English, BLAEC, akin to Old High German, BLAH, black. Right? Remember, Middle English, Old English, and High German is European. So by identifying ourselves as a term that was created by a European, we're basically giving them jurisdiction over ourselves. Now, when you read black, you're going to see that it's everything negative, sullen, hostile, currents of disaster, expressive of condemnation or discredit, invoking the supernatural and especially the devil, characterized by absence of light, etc. Right after black is blackamoor, and it says black or more, noun, from black plus more, a dark-skinned person, especially Negro, written in all caps. So it's obvious that more is the noun and black is the adjective describing the noun, more, right? And what they did was that they erased more, right? They erased more and replaced more with black, and then had everybody chase after black, like black is the identity. All right. Now, once again, King Alfred Plan. Diversion, the primary strategy. Experience has proven that the simplest method of securing a silent weapon and gaining control of the public is to keep the public undisciplined and ignorant of basic systems principles on the one hand, while keeping them confused, disorganized, and distracted with matters of no real importance on the other hand. This is achieved by disengaging their minds, sabotaging their mental activities by providing a low-quality program of public education in mathematics, logic, systems design, and economics, and by discouraging technical activity. 2. Engaging their emotions, increasing their self-indulgence and their indulgence in emotional and physical activities by a. Unrelenting emotional affrontations and attacks, mental and emotional rape, by way of a constant barrage of sex, violence, and wars in the media, especially TV and newspapers. B. Giving them what they desire in excess, junk food for thought, and depriving them of what they really need. 3. Rewriting history and law and subjecting the public to the deviant creation, thus being able to shift their thinking from personal needs to highly fabricated outside priorities. These preclude their interests in and discovery of the silent weapons of social automation technology. The general rule is that there is profit in confusion. The more confusion, the more profit. Therefore, the best approach is to create problems and then offer the solution. Diversion summary. Media keep the adult public attention diverted away from the real social issues and captivated by matters of no real importance. Schools keep the young public ignorant of real mathematics, real economics, real law, and real history. Entertainment keep the public entertainment below a 6th grade level. Work keep the public busy with no time to think back on the farm with the other animals. Amplification, energy sources. The next step in the process of designing an economic amplifier is discovering the energy sources. The energy sources which support any primitive economic system are, of course, a supply of raw materials and the consent of the people to labor and consequently assume a certain rank, position, level, or class in the social structure, i.e., to provide labor at various levels in the pecking order. Each class, in guaranteeing its own level of income, controls the class immediately below it, hence preserve the class structure. This provides stability and security, but also government from the top. As the time goes on and communication and education improve, the lower class element of the social labor structure becomes knowledgeable and becomes knowledgeable and envious of the good things that the upper class members have. They also begin to attain a knowledge of energy systems and the ability to enforce their rise through the last structure. This threatens the sovereignty of the elite. If this rise of the lower class can be postponed long enough, the elite can achieve energy dominance, and labor by consent no longer will hold a position of an essential economic energy source. Let me try it again. If this rise of the lower classes can be postponed long enough, the elite can achieve energy dominance, and labor by consent no longer will hold a position of an essential economic energy source. Until such energy dominance is absolutely established, the consent of people to labor and let others handle their affairs must be taken into consideration. Since failure to do so could cause the people to interfere in the final transfer of energy sources to the control of the elite, it is essential to recognize that at this time, public consent is still an essential key to the release of energy in the process of economic amplification. Therefore, consent as an energy release mechanism will now be considered. The artificial womb. From the time a person leaves its mother's womb, its every effort is directed toward building, maintaining, and withdrawing into artificial wombs various sorts of substitute protective devices or shells. The objective of these artificial wombs is to provide a stable environment for both stable and unstable activity, to provide a shelter for the evolutionary process of growth and maturity, i.e. survival, to provide security from freedom, and to provide defensive protection for offensive activity. This is equally true of both the general public and the elite. However, there is a definite difference in the way each of these classes go about to the solutions of problems. Summary. The political structure of a nation dependency. The primary reason why the individual citizens of a country create a political structure is a subconscious wish or desire to perpetuate their own dependency relationship of childhood. So they hire politicians to face reality for them. Summary. The people hire the politicians so that the people can 1. Obtain security without managing it, 2. Obtain action without thinking about it, 3. Inflict theft, injury, and death upon others without having to contemplate either life or death, 4. Avoid responsibility for their own intentions, 5. Obtain the benefits of reality and science without exerting themselves in the discipline of facing or learning either of these things. They give the politician the power to create and manage a war machine to 1. Provide for the survival of a nation/womb, 2. Provide encroachment of anything upon the nation/womb, and 3. Destroy those citizens of their country who do not conform or for sake of stability of the nation/womb. Politicians hold many quasi-military jobs, the lowest being the police, which are soldiers, the attorneys and the CPAs next, who are spies and saboteurs licensed, and the judges, who shout the orders and run the closed Union military shop for whatever the market will bear. The generals are the industrialists. The presidential level of commander-in-chiefs is shared by the international bankers. The people know that they have created this farce and financed it with their own taxes, consent, but they would rather knuckle under than be the hypocrite. Thus, a nation becomes divided into two very distinct parts, a docile subnation and a political subnation. The political subnation remains attached to the docile subnation, tolerates it, and leeches its substance until it grows strong enough to detach itself and devour its parent. So the idea is to create diversions, create artificial wombs, and have the people chasing after the artificial womb, right? And then once they chase after the artificial womb, they now become the food for the enemy that created the artificial womb that they think that they're part of, right? So the point again is that in order to connect yourself with the real womb, you have to have a nationality. No nationality means no rights, no respect, no honor, no anything, right? You're a stateless individual begging, leeching, sticking your hand out hoping to get something, right? So we're gonna go through, as usual, just show some imagery, right? So we can know what's going on. This is a statue figurine of a European Moor. Letting you know, just like King Alfred Plan says, the minority includes quote-unquote poor whites, which are Europeans. So they're Moors too, right? Look at them. You can see that clearly that's a European. It might have dark face or whatever, but the features, skinny nose and no lips, that's a European, right? The bottom picture, this is a dish from Cuba, black beans and rice, also called Moro Cristianos. That means Moors and Christians. So even a dish of black beans and rice has a nationality. Go ask a Cuban, what's the name of your black beans and rice dish? And see what they tell you. Here's another picture of a Moor figurine, fez, turban, tassel on the fez, right? Dressed in Moorish garb. These are not black people. These are not African people. The whole world knows that once you see a turban and a fez and a vest with a baggy shirt underneath and some baggy pantaloons, that those are Moors. The whole world knows this. But dumb niggers don't want to accept this reality. Webster's 1913 dictionary. Definition: Moor, noun. French: More, M-O-R-E, more, M-A-U-R-E. Latin: M-A-U-R-U-S, Moros, a Moor, a Mauritanian, an inhabitant of Mauritania. Morris, a dance. Morocco, one of a mixed race inhabiting Morocco, Algeria, Tunis, and Tripoli, chiefly along the coast and in towns. In history, an individual of the swarthy races of Africa or Asia, which have adopted the Mohammedan religion. In Spanish history, the term Moors Saracens, and Arabs are synonymous. This is Webster's 1913 dictionary. Right? 1913 dictionary. And here's a picture of some quote-unquote Moros. Right? Picture of Moros. They don't call themselves black people in the Philippines. They call themselves Moro. They don't call themselves black people in Asia. They call them Moro. That's a documented fact. Go ask an Asian. But dumb niggers don't want to accept these realities. Alright, cool. Did the pre-Islamic Moors live in Europe as far as the British Isles? Is it a myth or fiction? Before the Arab conquest in North Africa in the 7th century, there were powerful Moorish empires in northwest Africa. Moors joined Roman legions in Europe as part of the Pax Romana. So you're going to research that. Pax Romana. In the early 3rd and 4th century. Some of the Moors were posted in northern France, in Brittany, in Belgium, and in Germany and the British Isles. They founded, not Africans, Moors. They founded cities who still bear their names, like Mortagne, Mortain, Moray, etc. Their descendants were given surnames with M-O-R, M-A-U-R roots as testimony of their Moorish ancestors. These Moors are portrayed in Western art. There are numerous paintings with Moors. In heraldry, the famous Moor's head gives evidence of their presence. There are numerous European traditional dances where Moors are represented with black faces. Apart from artistic representation, there are traditional dishes and desserts that imitate the Moors as dark-skinned people. Despite all the evidence, some Europeans and dumb niggers said that the presence of pre-Islamic Moors in Europe is just a myth created by Afrocentrists and their sympathizers. So everybody knows that there's a big conspiracy going on against the Moors. You can do your research on the Spanish Inquisition to see what was done in order to get the Moors out of Al-Andalus that they fakely call Spain. Risk assessment, minorities at risk project, assessment for black Moors in Mauritania, 31st of December 2003. The black Moors have only 2 risk factors for rebellion: persistent protests over the last decade and government repression. However, geographic dispersion and scant economic or political resources make rebellion in the near future unlikely. However, black Moor protests is likely to continue so long as black Moors remain politically and economically disadvantaged. With few options to redress their grievances, black Moors, especially those engaged in promoting black Moor causes, suffer from significant political restrictions. Leaders of anti-slavery organizations have been arrested in Mauritania in recent years, and those who oppose the practice, whether white Moors or black Moors or black Africans, are at risk of arrest from the regime. The arrest and alleged torture of Haratines protesting land confiscation is among the most recent acts of repression against the group. The boundaries of acceptable and unacceptable protests remain vague in Mauritania, as in most partial democracies. Some black Moors are therefore likely to push the boundaries as far as possible. The Action for Change Party has forged meaningful alliances with some white Moor dominated opposition parties who have begun to advocate for black Moor causes. Since opposition coalitions to displace Mauritanian President Mayouna Ould Sid Ahmed Taya have been unsuccessful, black Moor grievances are unlikely to be addressed in a meaningful way. The effects of millennia of slavery are likely to disappear overnight. Those who are reduced to servitude are in the worst position in Mauritanian society and will continue to be there in the near future. If not actual slaves, these black Moors are certainly mistreated both verbally and often physically by others within Mauritanian status conscious society. So that's similar to the pictures that we see of the Muslims kicking sisters and spitting on sisters and all that, because there's a status issue all across the planet. The problem going across the planet is that people are losing their status in incalculable numbers, right? Everybody's losing their status without having an avenue or a revenue or a venue for them to get their status corrected, which is why Noble Drew Ali founded the Moorish Science Temple of America, the Moorish Divine and National Movement, so that the people can have a place to go to make these reclamation announcements about their status being corrected. Because denationalization is happening all over the planet. It's a repetitive theme that people are being denationalized, right? And the only way that the people are going to be free is if they proclaim their nationality, right? That's the only way people are going to be free. That's what Hitler tried to tell the Jews in Germany: proclaim your nationality, but they didn't want to do that. They wanted to be something that they're not, because everybody knows that they're not the Jews. Everybody knows that the Jews are Yehudi, and Yehudi is dark-skinned people. But if we don't want to be Yehudi, then just like your $100 that you drop, somebody else is going to pick it up and they're going to use it for whatever it is that they want, and you have no say. Because go back to the class that we did talking about abandonment of birthrights, that once you abandon your birthrights, obviously you have no claim for coming back to it, or you wouldn't abandon it in the first place. So all these clowns that are on Facebook talking crap about Moors, what are they talking about? Black means death, and I'm not a Moor, I'm black. Don't forget, all those stupid, idiotic statements that you're making that to the CIA and the FBI, who are listed as agents in King Alfred Plan. So don't think that they don't already got your IP address and they got you under surveillance, because majority of our people out there are so ignorant of the fact that they're Moors that they don't even want to accept the reality that they're Moors. Even with all this 400 videos that we have up on YouTube, right? Explaining to people, showing documented facts, evidence, books, articles, pictures, whatever it is that we can find to prove to our people that they're Moors, but they don't want it. Don't believe the hype. You're not blacks, and I guarantee you, when stuff starts kicking off over here in North America, in Northwest Amexem, and they start picking people off, you're going to be running to the temple. Don't wait till it's too late to get down with this, because trust me, they're doing everything that they can in their power to make sure that we don't arrive at nationality. They're doing everything they can in their power to make sure that we stay black, Negro, colored minorities, right? There's Moors that's talking about you can't even go to the county recorder's office and file papers anymore. They're not letting you because even those stations were bought out. That's why when you go to MoorishPublicRecords.com, Sister Anna Edel has the website where you can use that as your county recorder. But Moors don't want to do that. They want to go file UCCs and they want to do all these things contradictory to inalienable rights. They want to try to put inalienable rights in contracts that they're paying for, which means that you're running a fraud. If you're gonna take your right that you have to proclaim your free national name, you have a right to do that. But you're not gonna join the temple because we're the guys with the funny hats that say that we're part of Islam and you don't want to pray 5 times a day and your prophet is whoever and you don't want to accept Noble Drew Ali as your prophet. That's cool. You're gonna have to come to the reality that we've been right all this time. Guaranteed. You can play the game all you want. You can talk shit on Facebook about we're not Moors and tell Cujo he's a fool Joe and all this type of stuff. That has no problem with me. I have my birthright, so I'm not worried. And I know active Moors, they got their birthright, and I know that they're exercising. How much times that we push Brother Fontes talking to these policy enforcers? Moor versus police. It's on YouTube. Always pushing that. Everybody, even Moors, people with L and Bay on their name, are coming up saying, "Oh, that's not going to work when martial law kicks off." You just abandon your birthright like an idiot, right? So keep playing, because trust me, these guys aren't playing, huh? Right? And the thing that we were just reading, I'm gonna read this again so you know what it is. Risk assessment. Minorities at Risk Project. Assessment for blackamoors in Mauritania. December 2013. December 2003, sorry. So in 2003, in Mauritania, there was people named blackamoors, black Moors, in Mauritania. Mauritania is in Africa. So all these idiots that want to talk about, oh, Moor has nothing to do with Africa, and if you say that you're African, that's like the real position. No, Moors are from Africa. Moors are from Mauritania. Moors are from North Africa. There's no such thing as African people from Africa. It's Moors from Africa, right? Analytic summary. The Moors who are Muslim and speak Arabic are mainly the former slaves of the white Moors, although some families were never enslaved. Also known as Haratine, Haratine, the black Moors have always been a disadvantaged group because of their slave status and are generally looked down on by both the white Moors and the black African Kuri, K-E-W-R-I. They are dispersed throughout the country, although Haratine villages where only Haratines live exist mainly in the southern regions of the country. Slavery was officially abolished in 1980 for the third time in Mauritanian history. Although it still exists in practice and its effects are still strongly felt, black Moors continue to be born into white Moor families, living with their employers throughout their lives. They are rarely paid for this work and receive only the basics of survival, food and shelter, in exchange for their labor. Other black Moors are independent, running boutiques which sell staple supplies, bread, sugar, tea, working as labor in the capital or working their own land there are some villages which are inhabited only by black Moors. Those who work for white Moor families do all the physical labor, including gardening, hauling water, cooking, and cleaning. They rarely obtain jobs in civil service and are underrepresented in military, security, and police forces. Many black Moors are also systematically denied access to education because of their servant status. Black Moors who often encounter difficulties in obtaining legal documents and identification papers are also underrepresented in Mauritanian parliament. One member is a black Moor, and in cabinet positions. In 1974, black Moors founded the El Hor Freedom Pressure Group to advance the interests of their community. It called for land reform and encouraged Haratines to set up agricultural cooperatives as a means of gaining economic independence. Its emphasis on social issues and justice brought El Hor into conflict with the government, and many of its leaders were arrested, tortured, and exiled in 1979 to 1980. El Hor, ELHOR, was at its strongest between 1978 and 1982 and still exists today. Another anti-slavery organization, SOS Esclaves, was established in 1990s. So again, all you're going to do is Google risk assessment minorities at risk project assessment for black Moors in Mauritania, 31st December 2003, and you get all that information because there's way more than what I'm reading. The Moors by Neil Fitzgerald. To regret and this apparent surprise, Mr. Dunham drew his driver's license from his wallet the other day. Ari discovered that he was an quote-unquote other. Well, I'll be damned, exclaimed Mr. Durham, who looked a wee bit too much taken off guard by the discovery. I'm an other. I looked incredulously at Mr. Dunham and at the capital I which graced the front of his Delaware operator's license, and my skepticism stemmed from hard fact. For one thing, I happen to know that Mr. Dunham was a Moor with a capital M, and decidedly not an other, which is why I drove down to Cheswold to talk to him in the first place. For another, I knew that the Moors of Cheswold paid extra special attention to the code letter under the race on the driving license. In the early 1950s, a spokesman for the State Department of Public Safety told me these people asked for a distinctive designation of their race on the card. They veritably clamored to be identified as Moors, and had the precedent been set at the time, they probably would have called for more power. As a result, the reverse side of every man's Delaware license sports a series of color code and race codes, among them BK, BL for blonde, BU for blue, GN for green, GR for gray, H for hazel, M for Moor, N for Negro, O for Oriental, W for white, and T for other. An R for red, apparently added in the 50s along with M for Moor, is also among the codes, although it isn't clear whether it meant to denote color, race, or political affiliation. At any rate, here was Mr. Durham, one of the most prominent Moors in all Cheswold, telling me in effect that he hadn't noticed that the state in effect had rescinded his Moorishness. All of this boded ill for the kind of cultural, historical, and socio-political investigation I had planned to conduct in the town. With a pair of photographers in tow, I came to Cheswold to journalistically assay what folklorists used to call the customs, manners, and mores of the people. I prefer to call such objects of study distinctive lifestyles, but no matter, because whatever you call them, you can't find any distinctive customs, lifestyles, or manners of Delaware's Moors. Unfortunately, the news journal papers have never bothered to cite specific examples of those traditions and long-held beliefs. Of course, the newspapers have printed enough column inches charting the supposed historical origin of Moors here to fill a Nader report, most of it repeatedly represented as rock-bottom hard scholarship and facts. But newsmen should never be confused with scholars, simply because both presumably can read and write, and most of this Moorish history is blatant hogwash. The newspaper did cite that they considered to be a tradition. The Moors of Delaware have maintained a tradition of claiming kinship neither with the blacks nor whites of Delaware, nor with the Moors of Mauritania. Somehow, I don't think this was an anthropologist's ordinary people or fiddler on the roof mean of tradition. It's like saying the tradition of Santa Claus consists only of his not being the Easter Bunny, a jack-o'-lantern, or a Christmas tree. Remainder far-fetched theory and wishful thinking, and I challenge anyone, be he illiterate, naive reporter, or bleary-eyed antiquarian, to solidly document that the people called Moors in the first state are in any way related to North African type Moors. The most popular explanation of why there are Moors in Cheswold, Oak Orchard, Millsboro, and isolated spots in South Jersey nonetheless, is that there was a Spanish galleon wrecked off Luz sometime during the colonial period, and the only survivors were several Moorish slaves. These washed ashore, proceeded to wring out their soaked garments, intermarried with local Indians, and for some unexplained reason moved inland to Cheswold. Later, some of them became angry at the majority and packed their bags, probably full of gold doubloons and pieces of 8 for a bridge and turnpike tolls, and moved variously to Sussex County and New Jersey. The only thing that gives the slightest credence to this version, which I hope I haven't exaggerated overly much, is that there were some Moors in Spain during some time in the colonial period, principally remembered for building mosques and inventing coffee. Perhaps they prepared cups of hot Java in the galleon galley for the fatigued pirate who purportedly took the ship as a prize only to lose it in a squall. Somewhat more plausible is a story linking the Moors with an expedition to Tangiers launched by Charles II of England in the 1680s. When the Restoration King disbanded his troops in and about Morocco, it left several noblemen in his military service with no visible means of support. They decided to try their hands in shaping the new world. Naturally, they were noblemen. Isn't every good American in his wildest genealogical dreams descended from an English squire? Anyway, these good stout fellows apparently tried their hands at something else first, because they supposed to have picked up some Moorish woman for the long hard voyage, after which they arrived at Chesapeake Bay and disembarked on an island near Pocomoke Sound. Fortunately for us, they named the island Tangier Island so that we'd all remember they came from North Africa. And that's just, another article. This is an article called The Moors by Neil Fitzgerald, and it's probably about a 10-page article talking about the Moors of Delaware, right? And basically that they didn't come over here from Tangiers, they already and have always been here, right? Now, I found this on Oprah's website. There's pictures of all these fish, right? All these fish, these different types of fish, right, on Oprah's website. Okay, and at the bottom of the caption says, it's said that these distinctive swimmers got their name from the Moors of Africa, who believed these fish were bringers of happiness. And that's from www.oprah.com/Oprah Show/Australia's Aquatic Wonders. So even in Australia, they know about the Moors. Book time. You're going to go out and you're going to look for The Rediscovery of Black Nationalism by Theodore Draper. The Rediscovery of Black Nationalism by Theodore Draper. And we go to the chapter, page 69, entitled The Nation of Islam. Just remember, the name of this chapter is The Nation of Islam. We have now come to the forms which black nationalism in America is taking at the present time. The oldest and largest contemporary black nationalist movement is the Nation of Islam, better known as the Black Muslims. Oh, since he quoted them right there, then we're going to go to, we'll read that again. We have now come to the forms which black nationalism in America is taking at the present time. The oldest and largest contemporary black nationalist movement. The oldest and largest black nationalist movement is the Nation of Islam, better known as the Black Muslims. Right, so then we're going to go to our friends at King Alfred Plan, right? And the 12 major minority organizations under 24-hour surveillance by the Department of Justice, FBI, and CIA. And who's at the top of the list? The Black Muslims, that the brother Theodore Draper just verified for us. When they say black Muslims, they're talking about the Nation of Islam, right? So let's be clear about that. The legendary origins of this movement come close to pure fantasy. It seems to have its roots in the first Back to Islam movement, founded by a native of North Carolina, Timothy Drew, who changed his name to Noble Drew Ali. And then there's an asterisk. The attraction of Islam for Western Negroes goes even further back. One of the forerunners of present-day black nationalism, Edward W. Blyden, wrote an essay praising Islamism at the expense of Christianity for African Negroes as early as 1875. Blyden was born in the West Indies, came to the United States in 1850, and later settled in Liberia, where he engaged in Christian missionary work. Back to the book. From this picture, he appeared to be a tall, slender, dark Negro with the aspect of a dreamer, dressed in dark trousers, dark shoes, a white robe, a sash, collar, and necktie topped with a fez. He began by speaking to small groups of Negroes on street corners and in basements or empty lots. That sounds real similar to what they say Fard Muhammad was doing when he started doing his quote-unquote missionary work, right before he founded the Nation of Islam. Sounds real familiar. It's like people are just jacking people's stories and putting them on yourself. In 1913 or thereabouts, at the age of 27, he is reputed to have set up a Moorish American Science Temple in Newark, New Jersey, where he is said to have worked as an expressman. In the next decade and a half, other temples were opened in Pittsburgh, Detroit, Chicago, and elsewhere. Thus, Garvey's Back to Africa-ism and Drew Ali's Back to Islamism flourished at about the same time, though the former, at its height, reached many more people than the latter. With little formal education, Drew Ali hit on the idea that American Negroes could achieve salvation simply by making themselves into Asiatics, or more specifically, into Moors, or Moorish Americans, whose ancestors had come from Morocco. He also taught that these Moorish Americans were descendants of the ancient Moabites, who had inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa, not, as formerly believed, the region east of the Dead Sea. He gave membership cards to those who joined his cult, certifying that they were Muslims under the divine laws of the Holy Quran of Mecca. He composed a 64-page Holy Quran, only the title was the same as the sacred book of Islamic religion, which his devotees were enjoined to guard as a secret. It proclaimed that Noble Drew Ali was a prophet ordained by Allah, akin to Confucius, Jesus, Buddha, and Zoroaster. Subordinate leaders were generally known as sheikhs. For Drew Ali, a change of name was apparently thaumaturgic. White Europeans had subjugated the Moorish Americans, whose color he taught was olive, not black, by calling them Negroes, colored, black, or Ethiopian. By casting off these names in favor of Moorish Americans, they could regain their true identity and freedom. Thus, Drew Ali provided African Negroes with a new national origin, and that made them part of a far-flung Moorish nation that had somehow made its way to North America. This new nationality was the key to Drew Ali's teachings and influence. Before you have a God, he preached, you must have a nationality. He invoked Garvey's name by suggesting that Garvey was to him as John the Baptist was to Christ. Unlike Garvey, however, he did not tell his followers to leave the United States or to found an independent state. When the Garvey movement ran into trouble in the mid-20s, Drew Ali warned all his Moors to cease from all radical or agitating speeches and to leave the Europeans alone in order not to cause confusion. In effect, Drew Ali's emigrationism was purely psychological. It was enough for American Negroes to identify with an Islamic African nation and adopt its religion, if only by name. Therefore, they merely had to wait for the inevitable destruction of the white or European rule, of which the sign from heaven would be a star within a crescent moon. Meanwhile, they could be loyal citizens of the United States and pledge allegiance to its flag. Drew Ali was also something of a practical man. For all his dreamy appearance, one of his sidelines was a profitable business that sold old Moorish healing oil, Moorish purifier bath compound, Moorish herb tea for human ailments. Chicago became Drew Ali's main stronghold. As Garveyism declined, Drew Ali's movement grew large enough to be worth fighting over. In 1929, Ali's supreme leadership was challenged by Sheikh Claude Green, allegedly a small-time politician and former butler of the philanthropist Julius Rosenwald. In the struggle between their factions, Green was shot and stabbed to death in March 1929. Drew Ali was arrested and charged with the killing. Released on bond, he died a few weeks later mysteriously. His followers soon split among themselves, each strong man with his own temple. Moorish science was not the only form of psychological emigrationism. As early as 1900, it is said Negro preachers traveled through the Carolinas, spreading the word that the so-called American Negroes were really the lost sheep of Israel. About 1915, at the same time Drew Ali's cult was coming up, the first black Jewish or black Hebrew congregation was organized by F.S. Cherry, an amiable, dark brown ex-seaman and ex-railway employee. He was born somewhere in the deep south, claimed that once in his travels, far from his native land, the Lord had approached him in a vision and he had touched him. Thus appointing a prophet, he was led back to America and directed to establish the Church of God, as it was officially known in Philadelphia. Also educated, he picked up some Yiddish and Hebrew and impressed the followers by quoting from the Talmud as well as from the Bible. The Lord also thoughtfully gave Prophet Cherry the exclusive right to profanity which he liked to use. Right? And then it goes on to talk about, the Nation of Islam, their connection, right, to the Moorish movement. And goes on to talk about Malcolm X and his whole story and his connection to the Moorish movement, right? So this is the rediscovery of black nationalism. So that was a little brief of what Noble Drew Ali brought and his perspective, right? That was his perspective. So now let's ask them more and see what they say about Noble Drew Ali and what he brought. So we're going to go to Othello's Children in the New World by Brother Jose V. Pimenta Bay. Right? And we're going to go to his chapter 5. What's in a name? Nomenclature, nationality, and societal status. Through sin and disobedience, every nation has suffered slavery. They honored not the creed and principles of their forefathers. That is why the nationality of the Moors was taken away from them in 1774, and the word Negro, black and colored, was given to the Asiatics of America who were of Moorish descent. They honored not the principle of their mother and father. What is meant by the word black? Black, according to science, means death. What does the word colored mean? Colored means anything that has been painted, stained, varnished, or dyed. What does Ethiopia mean? Ethiopia means something divided. Can a man be a Negro, black, colored, or Ethiopian? No. Why? Because man is made in the image and after the likeness of God Allah. Quran questions 88 to 91. It is clear from MSTA sacred official literature that great importance is attached to nomenclature and nationality. MST members think it is imperative to reject inappropriate designations for one's own self or people. MST belief attributes the imposition of such semantically pejorative non-national names as black, Negro, and colored to the disobedience of Asiatic peoples, particularly the Moors. Essentially, Moors were punished for having violated Allah's laws. Enslavement was the primary penalty for Moorish, quote-unquote, African peoples having failed to practice the 5 principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice within their own society. Needless to say, history reveals the sad legacy of internecine struggles between Africans. The record shows that Egyptians fought Nubians, Ashanti fought Akan, Berbers fought Mandinkas, etc. Such disunity of the Asiatic nation nations resulted in the decline of the African continent and Europe's consequential ascension. Similar events between American Indians resulted in the loss of this continent to individual profit-driven Westerners. The residue of this past still exists in the colonized minds of African and American Indian peoples. The purpose of the MSTA was to awaken misnamed Made in America blacks to a more original, conscious, and worldview, believing in a cosmology which held that God Allah would assist those who reclaimed their national origin and upheld the spiritual principles which affected all men. Drew Ali established the MSTA for decentered Negroes/blacks. Ali certainly appeared to have been convinced that his position was validated by social and legal history, as well as theology and theosophy. In an MSTA pamphlet entitled A Warning from the Prophet in 1928, Friday, November 13th, Ali said, "The citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the names and principles that delude to slavery." Drew Ali explained that his Moorish movement was divinely sanctioned and recognized by all nations of the world. He said, "Through your free national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth that are recognized by the said national government in which they live." Ali contended that all so-called blacks and Negroes who declare their Moorish nationality can receive their divine rights unmolested by other citizens, can cast a free national ballot to the polls under the free national constitution of the United States government, and not under a granted privilege as has been the existing condition for many generations. You who doubt whether I, the Prophet, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those that know law in the city hall and among the officials in your government and ask them under an intelligent tone, and they will be glad to render you a favorable reply, for they are glad to see me bring you out of darkness into the light. Prophet Noble Drew Ali's speech also referred to the 14th and 15th Amendments to the U.S. Constitution and placed the date of the Free National Constitution at 1774. He said, "The 14th and 15th Amendments brought the North and South in unity, placing the Southerner, which was at the time without power, with the constitutional body of power. And at that time, 1865, the free national constitutional law that was enforced since 1774 declared all men equal and free. And if all men are declared by their free national constitution to be free and equal, since that constitution has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendments for the salvation of our people." Drew Ali was arguing that any person whose nationality was recognized by the government in which they live had to be treated fairly by the said government. Drew Ali regarded any persons who accepted legal designations as blacks, colored, and Negroes as non-citizens because they were legally saddled with slave designates. He considered such persons to be constitutionally mandated undesirables, subject to whatever molestations or granted privileges which the said legal government chose to bestow upon them. In short, the life, liberty, and happiness of non-nationals was not guaranteed and protected by the U.S. Constitution nor by U.S. officials who swore to uphold it. Needless to say, Ali placed a great degree of importance upon the letter and power of the law, and American history does provide a rationale for Ali's stance. Historical inquiry offers some reasons and explanations for such a position. The terms Negro, black, and colored, their association with subjugation and enslaved status. The utilization of official legal terminology has typically played a role in the oppression of African and American Indian peoples. Officially, nomenclature illustrated a person's legal and social status in the U.S. Various terms were used to identify persons of color, Asiatics, who had fallen under some form of European control and oppression. Historian Jack Forbes is very helpful in outlining the history and evolution of such official, Eurocentrically pejorative terms as mulatto, Negro, and black. Although Forbes says that the initial use of Negro in English did not immediately denote slave status like black, it later became synonymous with enslavement. African Caribbean scholar Richard B. Moore wrote that Negro appears to be a Spanish or Portuguese in origin, and he agrees that it was initially used as a descriptive reference or adjective for the black color of something. Moore declares that the first use of Negro as a noun can be traced back to 1441, when Portuguese kidnappers operating below the Senegal River used the term Negro to designate their captives. The Portuguese often referred to this region below the Senegal River as Guinea. Moore says that the Portuguese had always known the folk above the Senegal River as Moors and as Azegnus, A-Z-E-N-E-G-U-E-S, A-Z-E-N-E-G-U-E-S. Although Africans below the Senegal tended to be darker in complexion than those above it, very dark-skinned Africans could always be found above the river. Similarly, light-complexion Africans also lived below the Senegal River before European encroachment. Significantly, Prince Henry, the navigator of Portugal, led many expeditions to acquire captives from Senegal's region. Richard Moore writes, "It was in the development of this infamous, iniquitous, and inhuman slave traffic that the term Negro was foisted as a noun, as a designation, as a name upon those who were unfortunate enough to be caught in the clutches of slave traders." Moore also quotes the Portuguese explorer Azurara's description of the enslaved Negroes. Amongst them were some white enough, fair to look upon. Others were less white, like mulattoes. Others again were so black as Ethiops. We clearly see the Portuguese Azurara use the objectifying term Negroes to refer to Africans of all hues. The historical record further reveals that Europeans applied the term Negro to both Africans and American Indians. In July of 1559, Portuguese Jesuit and explorer Manuel de Nobrega, so Manuel D-E-N-O-B-R-E-G-A, wrote to the governor, 8 Negroes of Guinea were killed by a party of 6 valiant Negroes. By emphasizing the term Negroes of Guinea for continental Africans and the simple reference of Negroes for American Indians, Nobrega was able to refer to both groups with clarity. Speaking of the 1499 to 1503 expeditions to the northernmost parts of South America, Jose Antonio Sacco stated that one of the objects of these expeditions was that of robbing human beings in order to sell them as slaves. These American captives of the discovered lands were called Negroes and Loros. Forbes tells us that Loros was a general reference for American Indians. Negro was used for any brown or black people found in the Americas. Loro was indicative of being intermediate in color, and Negro black or very dark in complexion. Nevertheless, both terms were not national names, but rather objectified references placed upon subjugated peoples of the Americas. We should remember that to impose such disrespectful references would be both dangerous and impossible, unless the Portuguese were in a superior political position through which to subjugate these Asian peoples. History shows that the Portuguese thought themselves to be in such a position. Boxer noted that the Martha War of 1737 to 40 was due in part to a Portuguese official calling an influential Martha, southwestern India, leader a nigger. The Martha dignitary was highly insulted, and he understood that the word nigger was equated in the Portuguese language with Negro and slave. More then points to the work of the late great Cuban scholar Fernando Ortiz, professor of ethnography at the University of Havana. In The Illusion of Races, Ortiz states, "So degrading among the Hispanic peoples, not accepting Spain itself, were the words Negro and mulatto, that their uses became limited to slaves because they implicitly signify slavery or social vileness. Thus, the free black person was called Moreno, and the slave called Negro. To this very day, 1960, anyone who wishes to insult people of color will use the words Negro in place of Moreno and mulatto in place of Pardo, P-A-R-D-O, which means free mixed person of color." I'll fly ahead here. The designation of American Indian captives were often Catholic Spain. The destination of American Indian captives were often Catholic Spain. Significantly, such captive persons were customarily legally designated as Negroes before being sent to places like Salamanca and Seville. So great was the number of Negroes sent to those two cities that Ferdinand and Isabella issued a mandate in 1494 appointing Juan de Valladolid to act as their mayor. Known as El Conde Negro, the Black Count, Valladolid was judge and mayor of Negroes, freedmen, and free women. By 1565, the recorded number of Native American captives in Seville alone included nearly 6,000. Forbes research verifies that the enslavement of American Indians and their shipment to slave ports in Europe and even Africa was not a short-term experience. English involvement was extensive, and large numbers of American Indians were seized from the region now known as New England. In 1693, a delegation of Cherokee and Choctaws went to Charlestown, South Carolina, to secure the return of family members who'd been captured and sent to Jamaica. They were unsuccessful. Many of the Indians enslaved in the Carolinas during the period were originally from Florida and the Mississippi area. These captives were a major source of income for the English. Right, and again, this is Othello's Children in the New World, Moorish History and Identity in the African American Experience, Jose Pimenta Bay. Right, so it's clear that these slave labels that were used against indigenous people of the Americas, as well as people on the continent, was applied to anybody who was under subjugation, right? So being that it's, like Noble Drew Ali said, it's a new era of time now, and all people must proclaim their free national name. Being that it's a new era of time now, being that the European has come out of their mouth and said slavery is abolished, right? Being that Barack Obama and Stephen Harper and all these people signed on to the UN Declaration of Rights, and the UN Declaration of Rights clearly stating that everybody has the right to a nationality, which is the same thing that Noble Drew Ali said. Why aren't Negro, black, colored people, so-called Negro, black, colored people, taking the time to take nationality and birthrights seriously? They're not doing it because we talked about it about the class already, that them continuing to call themselves these labels puts a hex on yourself, because it's not like the Europeans calling you that. You're choosing to call yourself Negro, black, colored, and once you choose to call yourself these terms, you put a psychic attack on yourself. You hex yourself, because these are labels that have no connection to living entities. These are terms that were used to denationalize or to make the Moors, right? These were terms used to make the Moors property or slaves, whether it's mental slaves, physical slaves, social slaves, economic slaves, whatever. These terms do not really identify with us, right? Now, this is another article, right, called The Moors. This one is by Runoko Rashidi, famed historian that goes all across the world, comes back with pictures talking about the black people, the black people, the black people of this place, the black people of that place, right? This is Runoko Rashidi now, right? The Moors. It would not be inaccurate to say that the Moors helped reintroduce Europe to civilization. Not the Africans, not the black Africans or whatever, like how he talks about. The Moors helped reintroduce Europe to civilization. But just who were the Moors of antiquity anyway? As early as the Middle Ages and as early as the 17th century, the Moors were, according to Oxford English Dictionary, commonly supposed to be mostly black or very swarthy, and hence the word is often used for Negro. Dr. Chancellor Williams stated that the original Moors, like the original Egyptians, were black Africans. At the beginning of the 8th century, Moorish soldiers, not African soldiers or black African soldiers, Moorish soldiers crossed over from Africa into Spain, Portugal, France, where their swift victories became the substance of legends. To the Christians of early Europe, there was no question regarding the ethnicity of the Moors, and numerous sources support the view that the Moors were a black-skinned people. Morian, for example, is the adventure of a heroic Moorish knight supposed to have lived during the days of King Arthur. Morian is described as all black. His head, his body, and his hands were all black. In a French epic known as the Song of Roland, the Moors are described as blacker than ink. William Shakespeare used the word Moor as a synonym for African. So when we hear all these historians say the African people or the African culture or the African, they're really saying Moors, because Moor is a synonym for African. Christopher Marlowe used African and Moor interchangeably. Arab writers further buttress the black identity of the Moors. The powerful Moorish emperor Yusuf ben Tashfin, Yusuf-Ben-Tachfin, is described as an Arab chronicler, is described by an Arab chronicler as a brown man with woolly hair. Black soldiers, specifically identified as Moors, were actively recruited by Rome and served in Britain, France, Switzerland, Austria, Hungary, Poland, Romania. Saint Maurice, patron saint of medieval Europe, was one of the only black soldiers and officers under the employ of the Roman Empire. After the invasion of 711 came other waves of Moors even darker. It was his occupation of Portugal which accounts for the fact that even noble families had absorbed the blood of the Moors. From that time onwards, racial mixing in Portugal, as in Spain and elsewhere in Europe, which came under the influence of the Moors, took place on a large scale. That is why historians claim Portugal is in reality a Negroid land, and that when Napoleon explained that Africa begins at the Pyrenees, he meant every word that he uttered. Even the world-famed shrine in Portugal, Fatima, where Catholic pilgrims from all over the world go in search of miracle cures for their afflictions, owes its origin to the Moors. The story goes that a Portuguese nobleman who was saddened by the death of his wife, a young Moorish beauty whom he had married after her conversion to the Christian faith, that he gave up his title and fortune and entered a monastery. His wife was buried on a high plateau called Sierra de Air. It is from there the name of Fatima is derived. The Moors ruled and occupied Lisbon and the rest of the country until well into the 12th century. They were finally defeated and driven out by the forces of King Alfonso Enrique, who was aided by the English and Flemish crusaders. The scene of this battle was the Castello de São Jorge, or in English, the Castle of St. George. Today it stands overlooking the city of Lisbona, as the Moors named Lisbon. Right? So Africa, African, and Moor are terms that were used interchangeably, synonymously. And then you could attach Arab to that, you could attach Berber, Saracen to that, right? So it's a repetitive theme that when we hear people talk about Saracens, Berbers, Africans, etc., they're really talking about the Moors. And like we were talking about on Sunday, we talk about on Sunday, you could go listen to if you go to Civil Alert Radio, right? Go to Civil Alert Radio. There's a program on there called Noble Drew Ali, right? And in that program, Brother Taj Tariq Bey was talking about the conversation he had with Ivan Van Sertima, right? When he came out straight and asked Ivan Van Sertima, You know, like, what's the problem? How come you just don't call the people Moors? And Ivan Van Sertima, out of his own mouth, told Taj Tariq Bey this, that if he told the people that they're Moors, he would get deported back to Honduras. Right? Told him that. Right? To back that up, we were talking about it on Sunday. The sister that we know, right? She lives downstairs in my building, and she's a fashion designer. And she's going to fashion school out here. And she was talking to her teacher about the history of the Moors in fashion. And how come the teacher doesn't talk about the history of the Moors in fashion? And the teacher shut her up in class, right? They had a test, gave her like 6 out of 10 on the test or something when she got everything right, in order for her to come talk to the teacher. She goes and talks to the teacher, and the teacher is telling her that I can't tell you about the history of the Moors in school, because if I tell you about the history of the Moors, they're going to take away my teaching certificate. Right? So Spanish Inquisition is alive and well. They're still performing Inquisition against the Moors. They're just doing it in a way that can't be seen now. They're doing it with words now. They're doing it with, just like King Alfred Plan was saying, rewriting history. Not telling you that when they say African and Saracens and whatever, that they're talking about the Moors. Because if they said that, they would lose all their credibility that they work so hard to get. And they don't want to lose their position. They don't want to lose what they've worked so hard to get just because, they told somebody about the Moors. Right? It's common knowledge about the impact that the Moors have had in world history. Not the impact that the Moors have had in Africa or in world history. The Moors have had impact, right? And again, if we go and we talk to people in different countries, the reason why all these terms are synonymous with Moor is because all those other terms are misnomers. Africa's a continent, so we can't be African. But the Moors are from North Africa, so they can kind of say Africans and mean Moors. Berber is a language, but the Moors are Arabian, so they speak the language of Berber, right? So Berber and Moor could be synonymous. But if we don't have a nationality for ourselves, if we don't know who we are, right, then we're allowing other people to tell us our history. That's why Noble Drew Ali came. He came for us. He came to redeem us. How much people on Facebook bash Noble Drew Ali? How much people have websites? Look at Ali Muhammad putting out his Noble Drew Ali en masse bullshit, talking about, all this crap about Noble Drew Ali, bashing the man. When Ali Muhammad's first book he wrote about Noble Drew Ali. Go ask him. Ali Muhammad's first book that he ever put out has chapters about Noble Drew Ali, talking about his father, talking about the family, pictures in there, like documents in there, references in there of other people who knew about Noble Drew Ali's family, who knew about the Henry Turner family, right? And Noble Drew Ali's connection to the Washita and all that. But then now he's gonna come out and say that Noble Drew Ali is a fraud, right? When he's gonna call himself Ali though, and then Negro, black, colored, emotional idiots, they're just gonna follow this clown, right? No different than King Noble. He's gonna put out a Blog Talk interview, right, where I called in. he's going to talk about he's bashing Moorish Americans and all this type of stuff when he was a Grand Sheikh and he knows all this information. But he's not going to talk about FBI coming up in his spot and him running from the FBI, all that black power talk and all that crap, right? How come he's not telling the people about when the FBI ran up in his spot and when he ran away? He's not talking about that, right? He's not going to talk about running away when the FBI come. And then the FBI coming into the house, right? And then seeing that the house is a pigsty. Seeing that all the complaints that they were getting from people who complained on this guy, calling the FBI to complain on this guy because he stole their girlfriend, and they think that he's running some kind of cult. He's not going to talk about that, but he's going to have these idiots who support black, Negro, colored crap giving finance to him, right? Boosting him up, right? This is not no joke thing. This system is crashing. The system is done crashed already. Since 1933, system crashed. Since 1933, system crashed. Why the system crashed? Go ask Peter Moon. He'll tell you. The European Montauk Book of the Dead, which is in the Library of Congress. Peter Moon will tell you that Noble Drew Ali got the mandate back. That's why the system crashed. Right? Just like we were telling y'all. Right? History repeats itself. And who don't want to hear, they're gonna feel, right? We're just gonna put this on the record again so you can see the power of Noble Drew Ali and the fact that the noble prophet Drew Ali came to save us. If you don't want him, cool. You don't have to have him. But I guarantee that you're going to be seeing some hard times, right? Government set to raid bank accounts to raise bailout money. Noble Drew Ali told us from 1913, take your money out of the bank, our system's going to crash. But no, everybody wants to keep their pension and their savings, and like you have something, right? A plan to seize up to 10% of the people's savings in small Mediterranean island nation of Cyprus sent shockwaves across Europe on Monday as households realized the money they have in the bank may not be safe. A weekend agreement between Cyprus and its European partners called for the government to raid bank accounts as part of a 15.8 billion euro financial bailout. The first time in the Eurozone's crisis that the prospect of seizing individual savings has been raised. Facing outrage, Cyprus government delayed a parliament vote on the seizure and ordered banks to remain shut until Thursday, while it tries to modify the deal to reduce the hit on people with small deposits. What is it that they did when the stock market crashed? Didn't they make the fake bank holiday to steal all the bank and all the gold and silver out the banks? They made the fake bank holiday, HJR 192. Go read that. History repeats itself. The several hundred people gathered outside the vacant parliament building, with some chanting thieves, were very angry, betrayed, hurt, and extremely disappointed. In order to get 10 billion euros in bailout loans from international creditors, Cyprus agreed to take a percentage of all deposits, including citizen savings. The surprise deal stoked fears, this is key, the surprise deal stoked fears that deposits in other countries could be targeted. The government is now trying to modify the terms of the plan, and in particular to get a better deal for small savers. The stakes are high for the country of 1 million people because a rejection of the package could see the country go into bankruptcy and possibly out of the common euro currency. Officials also fear a run on Cypriot banks no matter which way the voting goes. So whether they decide to steal the people's money or not, you better get your money out these banks out there and keep playing. You're going to wake up one morning and it's going to be zero. Or you're going to wake up one morning and wonder to yourself, how come the bank never opened today? How come the banks just closed up for 2, 3, 4 days? Credit card don't work. Bank card don't work. You can't go to any machine, withdraw any money. Take your money out the banks. Noble Drew Ali warned the Moors. Noble Drew Ali warned the Moors. And what's disgusting about it, and it's in the Moorish literature, that it was a European man who took all his money out the bank, and then he came back to thank the Prophet and found out that the Prophet had passed for him. And he couldn't even thank the Prophet. And that's why Noble Drew Ali made the statement, if the Europeans helping me, why not you? If the European's going to help, right? If the European is going to do, look at William Cooper. You think he had to put King Alfred Plan in his book? He didn't have to put King Alfred Plan in his book. But he knew that King Alfred Plan was the military document that they were going to use against the minority, in which he was one, poor white. And he put it in his book, and they assassinated him because that information dropped before time. But nobody's now listening to William Cooper because he's a cracker. And, you know, black people don't support the crackers or whatever. Anthony Hilder, Kill the White Man lecture. The Kill the White Man lecture, Khalid's up there like a jackass talking about kill the white man and foolishness, and Anthony Hilder is sitting there talking about the plan that they have to exterminate black people. And they're clapping for Khalid, and they're dissing this European who's letting them know what's coming. Right? To the point where Khalid even changed his tune, and he came out and said that he's a Moor. What happened to the Black Panthers and new Black Panthers and all these guys that honor Khalid Muhammad and have them on the website and go to his grave site on his death burial day and all that? They're not going to come out and say that they're Moors though. Right? They're not going to come out and say that they're Moors. They're not going to come out and say that they're Moors. How come when Malachi York L was sitting in his trial, he was sitting there with a red fez? He wasn't sitting there with no half tarbush, ankh on the front, jackass fez like what these Nuwapians are wearing today, fronting like they're Moors. He had a red fez on in the court. They honor him though. They hold him in such high esteem. They love Doc. You know, Pops was, you know, the savior. But you have a tarbush with an ankh on the front. And he was sitting there with a red fez, like what, a red fez like this. He's sitting up in the trial with a red fez on. And then Nuwapians in Toronto are going to talk about they're not Moors. Oh, that was old stuff. You know, that was past stuff that Doc was dealing with. We're not Moors, we're Nuwapians. Yeah? Okay. Trust me, system's falling, huh? System's falling. System is falling so fast that you can't even see it falling. All you're going to do is just be buried under rubble. And Moors are going to be sitting there telling you, we told y'all. We told y'all take your money out the bank, but you don't want to listen. You think that we're just flapping our gums or whatever. Right? How is it that I talk how I talk? People want to get mad, my attitude and all that type of stuff? Because you guys are idiots. You guys can't even see the signs that they're putting in front of you every single day. People came out in a Toronto little bullshit newspaper that you get for free, telling you that they're stealing people's money out of the bank to create a bailout package. And they're going to go to other countries. and steal their money. But you want to have a bank account. On top of that, you didn't reserve your rights on the bank account. The bank account is in some European name that's not yours, and you keep calling it my bank account. So obviously you're running a fraud, because clearly you're not European. We just went through the stacks and stacks and stacks of articles, pictures or whatever, that you're Moors. Everybody knows that you're Moors. We went in the dictionary, showed you that you're Moors. We show Jose Pimentel Bay's book to show that you're Moors. We show you King Alfred Plan. They tell you that you're bound to this continent by heritage. Dr. Ben, your esteemed scholar, who you look up to and you honor him so much or whatever, he has a doctorate in Moorish history from the University of Spain. But you're not gonna... John Henrik Clarke has video on YouTube talking about black is not a nationality, Negro is not a nationality, we need to find our nationality. What do you think he's telling you? Not to jump on what Noble Drew Ali brought? Right? Taj and all these Moors been spitting this same message for 20 years. European came out, right? European came out with a book, The Sacred Drift, about Noble Drew Ali, founded Moorish Orthodox Church, have Europeans up there with nationality cards talking about their Moors, and Negro black color don't want it, and then you want to tell me that I shouldn't call them niggers because Noble Drew Ali said don't call your brother nigger? Those are my brothers if they don't want to accept their birthright, that they're Moors, that we're clearly brown people, then my hair is black and I can't call myself black if I don't look like my hair. But we don't want to deal with that, right? We want to play around. We want to point fingers at dumb stuff, right? Following all these agents, right? Emile Ill came out, told all these joker Moors, Brother C. Kirkman Bey, this is to notify you, Brother C. Kirkman Bey, for all you Kirkman Bey Moors out there who want to, front like he wasn't some agent that was sent, right, to infiltrate the temple and get you spiraling off into some oblivion. This is to notify you that the above named organization, Moorish Science Temple of America, in convention September 15th to 20th, rescinded by voting out the mistake made by the second annual convention of 1929, and in doing so, you hold your membership role as when our prophet was here, and we hope you will still cooperate with the organization under the 5 principles, which he chose not to do. He still wanted to, be the grand advisor, dress up and have markings on his fez and all that. After Noble Drew Ali said, Moors, don't mark your fez. Doesn't that tell you something? But nah, y'all gonna follow Kirkman Bey, when the true successor, Emile Ill, already told y'all. He made it clear, right? CM Bey came, dropped Clock of Destiny 1, Clock of Destiny 2, Moors. Same crap that Jose Pimenta Bey is talking about, infighting, Moors fighting each other, when the Europeans over here using your birthright against you, and you don't want to get it. It's time right now. The more Islam to Brother Jabbar gains ill. Brother Jabbar texted me earlier today. Brother Jabbar said that I'm excited because I'm watching our prophet's words come to pass right now. This nation is running out of ammunition. Soon they will be using church bells for bullets. That's correct. The world is waiting on our return. Our prophet is divinely ordained. Even the Vatican copied our charter of the MSTA. The whole world is waiting for Moors to step up. And unfortunately, only active Moors are stepping up. All you Moors that are in these temples out here that claim to be Moors, Moorish American, down with the Prophet, 5 on the left, 2 on the right, love, truth, peace, freedom, justice. Every time somebody makes a comment, something, you guys do peace and love after your comment and all this kind of crap. You better get active. And activity isn't Facebook. Get the hell off Facebook. Go find some sheik somewhere, some grand sheik somewhere. There's ample amounts of grand sheiks that are active. Get yourself a charter and be a grand sheik of a temple. And stop playing around. And let's get active. Because the world system is crashing. The people are going into your account. So-called money that you earn from your job or whatever, however it is you generate it, they're going into that account and stealing the money to make bailout packages. It's not a fiction. It's happening right now. Noble Ali said the 4th and 5th generations are going to be the ones. New Moors are going to come with their eyes wide open, seeing and knowing, and they're going to fulfill the law. Seat you or Moors in the back. Like, that's what's going on right now. Whether you want to accept that or not is up to you. All I know is Islam to all the active Moors. Stay active. We got this. We got this. Talk to Sister Anna Ida today. Right after this. Right after this, go on to Civil Alert. Go listen to Sister Santasha. Tell y'all what's going on in Atlanta. How they're cramping all these put boot on your car punks. Right? Cramping them. North Carolina judge came out and told all these guys, you guys better take all your property out of your name. Put that in somebody else's name. Why? Because system's falling. Everybody knows the system's falling. Everybody knows the system's falling. Negro, black, coloreds are the only ones that are playing around. It's not arrogance how we're talking. It's because we are scientists. We follow the stars, astrology, cosmology, and we know that the time is up. The physical is just slow to catch up to the spiritual. But when the spiritual and the physical catch up, none of you people are going to be in trouble. You don't even know what's going to go on when this thing drops. And like Brother Tallahassee always says, they could come get me. They can come and throw me in concentration camp or whatever. All I know is I'm not dying as a Negro, black, colored person. That's all I know. All I know is my spirit is going to be aligned with Allah when time comes for me to get the hell out of here. Because I'm going to know in my heart, in my mind, in my soul that I'm not Negro, black, colored people. All you people who want to be black, you guys can keep that shit. And I'm going to keep bashing you guys in the head because you guys are full of crap. All you do is talk crap, flap your gums, and you have nothing to show for what you're flapping about. Nothing. All you people with splinters in your hand from holding wooden signs talking about you're marching, picketing or whatever. All you guys. They go on YouTube, go watch the G20 riots from Toronto, Canada, and see how they were dealing with these people who call themselves protesters. Right? See how they were dealing with them. Innocent people. They had them standing in the rain for 8 hours. 8 hours standing in the rain, surrounded by police. You can't leave, you can't do nothing but just stand there like a punk. Why? Because you, instead of staying your ass at home, you want to go see what the G20 riot is about. You want to go see what this is about. Putting your nose in stuff that have nothing to do with you. They put y'all on notice. They've been putting you on notice that the martial law's coming. They've been putting you on notice that they're going to do this, but nobody wants to go proclaim their nationality. Nobody wants to be around the guys with the funny hats, right? Oh, I already have Prophet. I don't need Prophet Noble Drew Ali. He's nobody. All right, that's cool. Do your thing, right? Moors and Masons by Mehmet Sabedin, right? Everybody knows what's up. Everybody, except so-called Negro, black, colored people who want to keep playing this game like Moors are begging them something. This is your birthright. If you don't want it, that's on you. You're not going to force nobody to drink water around here. There's the fountain. Turn the lever and drink. If you don't want to drink, then dehydrate. That's up to you. That's your business if you want to dehydrate. Moorish science. The involvement of Freemasons in the establishment of the United States of America is well documented. In fact, Masons featured so prominently in drafting the American Declaration of Independence that many people believed it thoroughly a Masonic project. Not only George Washington, but also the U.S. founding fathers Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson were high-degree Masons. Masonry had a profound influence on the formation of American society, but there was also another secret power which had gone completely unnoticed. The Kingdom of Morocco, under the leadership of Sidi Mohammed ben Abdullah, known as King Mohammed III, was the first country in the world to recognize the United States of America as an independent nation in 1777. Right? 1777. 1777. This historic act by the North African Muslim Kingdom, this historic act by the North African Muslim Kingdom highlights the relationship then existing between Americans, Masonic leaders, and the Moors, not the Africans, not the Saracens, not the ancient Egyptians, the Moors. The term Moor came to be synonymous. The term Moor, before exploring this strange connection further, we need to understand the part played by the Moors in the transition of knowledge to Europe. Moor is a classical name in Europe of the Muslim people of North Africa. In Spain, where Muslims ruled for 500 years, Arabs still called Moros. The term Moor came to be synonymous with Muslim. In many contexts, for example, the Muslim countries, the Muslim communities in the Philippines are known to this day as Moros. The supreme wisdom of the Moors, much of it derived from ancient Egypt, has come to be known as Moorish science. The Moors provided the vital link in between ancient and modern civilization. The light of knowledge which illuminated the Moorish lands of Spain and Sicily was instrumental in dispelling the gloom of ignorance that enveloped medieval Europe. It was under the influence of the Arabian and Moorish revival of culture, writes Robert Biffalt. So research him. Robert, Biffalt, in The Making of Humanity, and not the 15th century that the real Renaissance took place. Spain, and not Italy, was the cradle of the rebirth of Europe. After sinking lower and lower in barbarism, it had reached the darkest depths of ignorance and degradation when the cities of the Saracenic world, Baghdad, Cairo, Cordova, Toledo, were growing centuries of civilization and intellectual activity. It was there that the new life arose, which was to grow a new phase of human evolution from the time when the influence of their culture made itself felt, began stirring a new life. The Orientalist, Stanley Lane Poole, we already know him, master, right, historian, acknowledged the great impact of Moorish civilization had on Europe when he wrote, "For nearly 8 centuries under her Muslim rulers, Spain set to all Europe a shining example of a civilized and enlightened state. Art, literature, and science prospered as they then prospered nowhere else in Europe. Students flocked from France and Germany and England to drink from the fountains of learning which flowed only through the cities of the Moors. The surgeons and doctors of Andalusia were in the vanguard of science. Women were encouraged to devote themselves to serious study, and a lady doctor was not unknown among the people of Cordova." In 19th century, French writer on the esoteric sciences Gerald Encausse, Google him, Gerard Encausse, known as Pappus, noted how the Gnostic sects, the Arabs, alchemists, Templars, oh yeah, don't forget, go get the book Alchemists and let Paulo school you on the Moors. Noted how the Gnostic sects, the Arabs, alchemists, Templars form a chain transmitting ancient wisdom to the West. This explains why within the ritual of Freemasonry there is the admission, "We came from the East and proceeded to the West." A Masonic author, Bernard H. Springett, go Google him, Bernard H. Springett, says, "The plain fact that much of what we know, look upon almost entirely as Freemasonry, has been practiced as part and parcel of the religions of the Middle East for many thousands of years, lies open for anyone who cares to stop and read, instead of running by. But it is frequently and scornfully rejected by the average Masonic student. So we find that just as Europe borrowed considerably from the learning of the Moors, European Freemasonry took its secret wisdom from the Muslim East. When the Moorish rule in Spain and Europeans began to colonize Africa, Asia, and the Americas, in time, European Christians conquered Muslim territories, and the great debt Western civilization owed to the Moors was quickly forgotten. So everybody knows that the Moors are owed a great debt, and Noble Drew Ali said that that debt is going to be paid in compound interest. What do you think he's giving you your birthright back for? Why do you think he came and everybody's Moors? But he came and told us that we're Moorish American. CMB came and solidified that by filing the Zodiac Constitution, the Clock of Destiny nationality card, and the Clock of Destiny books 1 and 2 in the Library of Congress under the name Moorish American that Noble Drew Ali brought to the Moors. But you're going to have Moors in turbans and fezzes dissing CMB, who was 33rd degree, 360 degree free Moorish Master Mason with no markings on his fez, which means that he wasn't even talking about Freemasonry. He was exercising his birthright as a high scientist. He was exercising his birthright as a high scientist, doing. How much Moors do you know that have something filed in the Library of Congress? Name them. Let's go down the list of all these reincarnated prophet punks who want to talk about they're reincarnated into a adult body. Don't you understand you've been gamed by your own people wearing turbans and fezzes? How are you going to reincarnate into an adult body? Go ask all those reincarnated Moorish leader followers that. You can't reincarnate into an adult body. It's an impossibility. Not only is it an impossibility, it's fraud. But you guys want to follow all these fraudsters, right? You want to follow all these fraudsters. I'm hearing that they're suing people because active Moors are being active, and they're talking about they have some authority to sue people. Come sue me. I beg you guys, come sue me, so I could drop this letter on the judge that you guys are going to have friends with or whatever, and let's see them get out of the fact that Emile Ill called you guys out in 1930. Let's deal with that. Sue me, I beg you guys. So we find that just as Europe borrowed considerably from the learning of the Moors, European Freemasonry took its secret wisdom from the Muslim East. Is no different than these so-called Moors that are out here pushing an ideal about some reincarnated prophet like Noble Drew Ali's dead or something. Noble Drew Ali didn't veil the form. Noble Drew Ali's a juridic entity, and Noble Drew Ali lives forever. Noble Drew Ali is always going to be the supreme grand sheikh of the Moorish divine and national movement. And the Moorish nation is the grand body and the grand major temple. Don't be listening to these Moors because they have some church that they bought talking about their grand major temple. And they have a church. A church, God doesn't dwell in man-made temples. You should have learned that in Christianity. And it's hypocrisy. It's hypocrisy for any of these Moors to try to claim that they're the grand body of the Moorish movement when the nation is the grand body of the Moorish movement. That's a fact. That's a fact. Any one of these temples out here that call themselves Grand Major Temple, I want to see you house these 60 million Moors. Let's say tomorrow everybody says, you know what, I'm going to get down with this Moorish thing because system's crashing, and I get what these guys are saying. Let's say light bulb goes off in everybody's head. None of you temples out there could house all these Negro black colors when they wake up. None of y'all. Fronting. Because the nation is the Grand Major Temple. And the only Grand Sheikh is Noble Drew Ali. I tell Moors all the time, I'll dash away a title Grand Sheikh. That don't mean nothing to me. Right? Grand Sheikh Richard Neal Bey Jr. put it on me. If you put Grand Sheikh on a dog, we're going to be following the dog around? Because he has the title Grand Sheikh? I doubt it. So why are we following all these people who say that they're Grand Sheikh, Grand Governor, Grand this, Grand that? Forget all them titles. The only Grand Sheikh is Noble Drew Ali. If you can't accept that, take off your turban and fez, go back to the corporate state where the Prophet found you. Because it's not playtime no more. These people need to be woke up to the fact about the truth about their nationality and birthrights. Not everybody is going to dissolve every contract at once. If you are a driver and that's your livelihood to feed your 8 children or whatever, you'll be an idiot to come into this information and throw away your license. You'll be a jackass. And that'll just prove that you don't study. And you're trying to get some handout. And keep bringing up the more. Tallahassee always said, you're not getting no handouts out of this. This is not no handout thing. If I can get this, then anybody should be able to get this. And if anybody doesn't get this, they're dumb niggers. Because Brother Tallahassee put it on the record that he don't know how to read and write. And he gets this. He's one of the Moors standing stronger on this than anybody out here. With licenses, bank accounts and all that. It's time right now. It's been time. The Europeans, Christians, conquered Muslim territories, and the great debt Western civilization, which is really Eastern civilization, because the West belongs to the Moors, so don't even believe that crap when they Babylon's in the West and all that crap like the Rastafarians talking about. Babylon's in the East, Europe's in the East. Europe isn't over here. This is the Moroccan Empire. So we listen to these clowns trying to get you to abandon your birthright because they're assuming that Europe is a continent. Europe is a group of individuals. Europe is not a continent. There's no continent called Europe. That's why every continent begins with A except Europe, because it's not a continent. By the 18th century, European Christians saw themselves as predestined rulers of the world with a divine mission to civilize the heathen. Western historians conveniently ignored the immense contribution of the brilliant and energetic Moorish civilization, delivering Europe from medieval barbarism. When these guys were bathing 4 times a year, when they were using fur coats to get fleas off of their body, the Moors came and brought them out of that barbarism. Go get the book Dirt. You can find it at any library. Go get the book Dirt, and then you can see the barbarism that these people were dealing with, that they brought straight out of the caves right into Europe. We can only conclude that it is a result of the pride and presumption of Westerners. They're not Westerners. They're troglodyte hybrids, which prevent them from recognizing the truth or importance of their debts to the East and the West. Because the Moroccan Empire, as the noble prophet laid down, the noble prophet laid it down. Their dominion, talking about the Moors, and inhabitation extended from northeast, so northeast, and southwest Africa, and southwest, so that's pretty much the whole continent, across the Great Atlantis, even onto the present North, South, Central America, and also Mexico, and also the Atlantis Islands. According to all true and divine records of the human race, there is no Negro, black, or colored race attached to the human family, because all the inhabitants of Africa were and are of the ancient Canaanite nation, from the holy land of Canaan. What your ancient forefathers were, you are today without doubt or contradiction. There is no one who is able to change man from the descendant nature of his forefathers unless his power extends beyond the great universal creator Allah himself. The time has come when every nation must worship under its own vine and fig tree, and every tongue must confess his own. Through sin and disobedience, every nation has suffered slavery due to the fact that they honored not the creed and principles of their forefathers. So that's why Negro, black, colored people were enslaved, because they didn't they didn't honor the creed and principles of their ancient forefathers. That is why the nationality of the Moors was taken away from them in 1774, and the words Negro, black, and colored was given to the Asiatics of America who were of Moorish descent, because they honored not the principles of their mother and their father, and they strayed after the gods of Europe, of whom they knew nothing. So it's the end times right now. We're living in Revelations. You don't hear 2014 mandatory RFID chipping is going on. Mandatory. Google that. Mandatory RFID chips. If you don't know how to stand up on nationality and birthrights, guaranteed you're getting the shot. No different than people who, they run the practice tests with the flu shot. They're running the practice inoculation. They're running the practice get your chip. There's people going to be lining up for chips, right? Lining up, because what are they going to say? That they stole all the money out the bank, and now they're going to have to put all your money or whatever in this chip, and your chip's going to have to be inserted in you so you can have some credit, and then credit's going to be the new money. Remember I told you, the last prophet in these days is Noble Drew Ali, who was prepared divinely in due time by Allah to redeem men from their sinful ways and to warn them of the great wrath which is sure to come upon the earth. We as a clean and pure nation from the inhabitants of Africa do not desire to amalgamate or marry into the family of the pale-skinned nations of Europe, neither serve the gods of their religion, because our forefathers are the true and divine founders of the first religious creed for the redemption and salvation of mankind on earth. Therefore, we are returning the church and Christianity back to the European nations as it was prepared by their forefathers for their earthly salvation, while we, the Moorish Americans, are returning to Islam, which was founded by our forefathers for our earthly and divine salvation. The covenant of the great God Allah: honor thy father and thy mother, so thy days may be longer upon the earth land, which the Lord God Allah hath given thee. Come, all ye Asiatics of North America, and hear the truth about your nationality and your birthrights. Don't believe the hype, because you're not Negroes. Learn of your forefathers' ancient and divine creed, that you would learn to love instead of hate. We are trying, we are trying to uplift fallen humanity. Come and link yourselves with the families of nations. We honor all true and divine prophets. Once again, today was Rediscovery of Black Nationalism, Theodore Draper. The Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, divinely prepared by the noble prophet Drew Ali. We had article, Webster's 1913 Dictionary, Risk Assessment Minorities at Risk Project, Assessment for Black Moors in Mauritania, The Moors by Neil Fitzgerald, Oprah.com/Oprah Show/Australia's Aquatic Wonders. You can also check out The Ladino Moors, Ladino Moors by Jide Uechia, JIDEUWECHIA, www.africandiasporastudies.com, The Moors by Runoko Rashidi, Moorish Literature, Moors and Masons by Mehmet, M-E-H-M-E-T, Sabeddin, S-A-B-E-H-E-D-D-I-N, Webster's 7th New Collegiate Dictionary, Othello's Children in the New World, King Alfred Plan, and the one that I didn't get to, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa by Walter Rodney. And don't forget, this Saturday, or this Sunday, apologies, Moorish Culture Unveiled, The Astronomy and Geometry of Masonry and Christianity, with the master etymologist Abdullah El Talib Mozi Bey. It's going to be at 1704 Eglinton Avenue West, the Moorish Science Temple of America, the first ever Moorish Science Temple of America in Canada, Canaan land, Northwest Amexem, North America. This Sunday, 4 p.m., Skype lecture, 20 notes. If you're interested in pre-ordering the DVD of the lecture, you can make your PayPal 20-note payment to culturaleducators@gmail.com, culturaleducators@gmail.com. Make sure you check out rvbaypublications.com. Make sure you check out canaanlandmoors.webs.com. Make sure you check out iamcourage.webs.com. And if anybody needs to get at me, Kudro Adwa L on Facebook. And last but not least, Islam to all the Moors online for holding it up as usual. You know what I mean? We have a dedicated 7 to 12 that's online every week. Honors to y'all. And we're just going to close out with the prayer. 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through His holy prophet, Noble Jew Ali. Islam, Islam, Islam. And also don't forget, 9:30, Civil Alert Blog Talk, Sister Santasha. Make sure you check that out, because Tuesdays it's all night, 7 o'clock till 12 midnight. Active Moors, knowledge, 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 knowledge. That's how we do. That's where we have to be right now. Study, 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 because that was the charge that Noble Jew Ali put on us. And one more website, moorishpublicrecords.com. Go on that website, check all the PDFs that they have on that website. Sister Anna Eel staying up till late in the night, typing up all these writs, putting them in PDF format, so copycats can't go on there and just copy stuff, right? You're going to have to print them out, read them, study them, retype them if you want to use them. And all those writs on that site are usable, practical today for any single situation that you're dealing with. Guaranteed. follow the instructions, follow the protocol, honor your brothers and sisters, show honors to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, give thanks to Allah, and we'll connect on Sunday. Islam Wars.